Good afternoon, and welcome to Supply Chain Now Radio. We are broadcasting live today from the supply chain capital of the country, Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Scott Luton. I'm your host for today's session. In our webinar today, we'll be featuring a fast-growth supply chain supercompetitor named Tosca, the 2018 APICS Atlanta Company of the Year. The organization was also recently named a 2018 AJC Top Company to Work For in Atlanta. We are pleased to be featuring Mike Wasson, VP of Supply Chain and Operations for Tosca, as our guest speaker. Mike's focus today will be on how to effectively fight the war for talent and how to build a company culture that puts your organization in the best position to attract top supply chain talent. More about Mike in just a minute. But as always, we are glad to have you with us here today on Supply Chain Now Radio. So let's tackle our ground rules next. All attendees will be on mute as we're looking to optimize the audio experience. And if we'll go to that second slide there. With that said, let's make it as interactive as possible. So please do submit your questions via the chat toolbar. We'll answer as many as we have time for at the conclusion of today's webinar. And finally, a PDF of today's presentation and the recording will be sent out in the next few days to each of our registrants. So let's take a minute to recognize our sponsors here on Supply Chain Now Radio. Big thanks to our sponsor, APICS Atlanta, which has been serving the Metro Atlanta community since 1964. For those of you new to APICS, it is the premier industry association dedicated to end-to-end supply chain management. Around the world, our organization serves over 45,000 members. APICS offers membership and professional development, a wide range of education opportunities, industry-leading research and publications, and widely recognized professional certifications. To learn more, visit us at apicsatlanta.org. And special thanks to our sponsor, TalentStream, a WeBank-certified recruiting and staffing firm that specializes in helping organizations find top talent in the engineering, manufacturing, and supply chain space. Did you know TalentStream has averaged a 45-day time to fill on its core job searches in 2018? Contact them today to put that V8 search engine to work for your organization. To learn more, visit us at talentstreamstaffing.com. Okay, our audience is in for a treat today. Let's share a little more information about our speaker. Mike Wasson serves as Vice President of Supply Chain and Operations for Tosca. In his role, he provides leadership and direction to all supply chain and plant operations functions. Mike has over 20 years of broad-based supply chain and operations experience in large-size organizations, including leadership roles with Coca-Cola Refreshments, DHL Express USA, and Roadway Express Incorporated. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a marketing emphasis from Lewis University in Romeoville, Illinois, and is an APICS certified supply chain professional. In addition, Mike serves on the National APICS Board of Directors as well as the Board of Directors for the Reusable Packaging Association, where he is currently the Secretary/Treasurer. We're also pleased to have Mike Wasson serve as a member of our APICS Atlanta Executive Advisory Board since its inception in 2015. He's a big friend of our chapter and has provided a variety of valuable insight and support in recent years. On a personal note, Mike is married with one daughter and resides in Woodstock, Georgia. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Mike Wasson.
Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it. So thank you also, everybody joining us today. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to spend a little time with us. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about, to Scott's point, winning the war on talent and how to create a culture that attracts top supply chain talent and maybe more importantly, not just attract talent, but then retain talent once you manage to bring them on board. To start with how to create a culture to attract top supply chain talent, I think it's really important to talk about what culture is and kind of a brief understanding of that. Corporate culture is the shared values, attitudes, standards, and beliefs that characterize members of an organization and define its nature. Simply put, culture is the what we do and the how we do it. More importantly, maybe than the words, culture is really an unwritten value set that gets communicated and demonstrated by management, either directly or indirectly, to all employees in the organization, and it's kind of the environment that folks operate in. And when I say it's an unwritten value set, the tricky part about today's presentation is that we're going to try and put it in writing in 25 slides or so. I'm going to try to define not just what culture is, but also how you create a culture that will help you win that war on talent. So to start with defining culture beyond the shared values, attitudes, standards, and beliefs, it helps also to understand what drives and motivates your team. What do your team members or your potential team members want in their job? Why do they come to work every day? And one secret I think that I've learned over the years is that it's not always about the paycheck. That's certainly an attractive feature in a job, but that's not the reason that folks get out of bed and come to work every day. And then also, we're talking a lot about corporate culture, but I think the same lessons can be applied to the culture of a work group, maybe a plant location, a warehouse, maybe even just a department within a larger organization. It doesn't have to be corporate culture. So when we talk about culture, it's not as easy as saying that we want our place to be a fun place to work. It's not as easy as putting a ping pong table in your break room and then expecting everybody to be happier. Culture is defined not only by the words that we put on paper, but it's more defined by the way we live out those words in your daily interactions. Culture is something that should be pretty consistent day in and day out, in good times and in bad, for richer, for poorer, etc. Culture really is, in my opinion, similar to a marriage. Your corporate culture needs to be an environment that benefits both parties in that relationship. It's a relationship where the individual or the employee, the team member, feels valued. They feel like their contributions are recognized. They feel like they have a voice, and they want to come to work every day to continue to add value to the organization. But culture also needs to benefit the company. The company needs to receive value from the employees. The company needs to make money. The company needs to attain goals and drive results and things like that. So it really is a mutual relationship similar to a marriage, in my opinion. Perks are important, don't get me wrong. Things like having free coffee and soft drinks in the workplace, maybe catering in lunch every day, maybe the ping pong table are great. And they may come and go when you have good results or great goal attainment. But the games and the meals and the free coffee and the sodas and things like that, that is not what defines your culture. Those perks may come and go when you have good goals or good results. But your culture is more defined by rewarding performance and holding ourselves and each other accountable to achieve those goals. And that's one of the kind of the subtle differences between creating a culture and creating maybe a sense of entitlement by just providing, free things or nicer things in the workspace that aren't tied back to benefiting the company. So folks that work with me know that I love quotes. I don't know why. I think there's a lot of more eloquent people out in the world than I am. So I had to limit myself in this presentation to just the one, so I didn't get carried away. And this one comes from a great visionary leader, a gentleman named Colin Powell. And Colin Powell said, organization doesn't really accomplish anything. Plans don't accomplish anything either. Theories of management don't much matter. Endeavors succeed or fail because of the people involved. And I love that quote because I do believe that culture really is all about the people. And when we talk about the people, I think there are a few things that are sort of universal truths or fundamental things that folks want to understand about their company, their manager, the organization that they work in. And I think they're true whether we're talking about attracting supply chain talent or sales talent or accounting talent. These things are true for all talented people. And I think they're also true regardless of what your company does, regardless of what line of work you're in. I think these things are true also. And so those things are, why does the company exist, who their customers are, and the value that the company provides to those customers or to society in general. I think talented people want to know the value that their role provides and how it's connected to the mission and the vision of their company. So that when they come in and they do their job, they understand how that furthers the mission of the company or furthers the vision of the company. And then third, I think people want to understand how the company is going to achieve the mission and the vision statements. For Tosca, we think these answers are relatively simple. And that is that we care about one another, we care about our people, and we care about our customers. And that caring and that compassion that we have as an organization compels us to find solutions that will help our customers deliver better quality products and reduce waste. And whether that's wasted time, wasted dollars, wasted packaging, or wasted food product, we're all about reducing waste. We believe that our team members are the face, the voice, the heart, and the soul of our company. And I think that when you're talking about defining culture, those things apply universally. So today, I want to share some of the specifics about the culture journey with Tosca, the steps that we've taken, and some of the results that we've experienced as a result. And I hope that you can take some of what we've learned as an organization and help apply it in your own company or your own function, your own organization, and learn from that. So when we talk about culture, right, the first part of culture is what do we do? Why do we exist? The value that we provide. And that starts with the mission and the vision statement. Your mission statement should answer the questions of who we are, what we do, who our customers are, and why we exist, or the value that we provide. Your mission statement needs to be clear and understandable so that employees can be aligned to it, and maybe more importantly, employees can explain to other people what they do for a living. And then, even more importantly than that, putting the words on paper is important, and words matter very much. But more importantly, they need to see the leaders live the mission and the vision every day to build trust and build collaboration. So you'll hear me say this probably a few times during the next 45 minutes or so. Words matter. When you define your culture, it's important to pick the right words. But more importantly, put the words on paper and then live it out every day so people see it and experience it. So for Tosca, our mission is to revolutionize the flow of perishables through the supply chain, eliminating waste at every turn. Our vision is we see a future where all one-way perishable packaging is converted to reusable containers. We are engineering an era where reusable is the standard, where efficiency and sustainability thrive. And that's our vision. That's what we envision becoming as we continue to grow and expand as an organization. And then finally, who we serve and the value that we provide. So we are a perishable food company, or perishable food packaging company, excuse me, and we serve the perishable food industry, primarily fresh produce, protein, poultry, eggs, and cheese. And by supply chain, we can quantify and qualify the benefit that we provide to customers. So for example, in protein, I won't read every word to you, but in protein, we work with meat processors to efficiently and safely transport meat. RPCs, or reusable plastic containers, provide greater structural integrity and ergonomic handles, making this packaging solution stronger and easier to handle. So we define by customer that we serve and by supply chain that we operate in the benefit that we provide or the value that we provide to those customers. A part of understanding supply chain and talent and attracting and retaining supply chain talent is that last question that I've got highlighted on. So people want to understand why the company exists and the value that they provide. But I think most importantly, they want to understand how their company will achieve the mission and vision and how do they contribute to that. So we'll talk a little bit today about how Tosca has done that. And again, hopefully you can take some of these lessons and apply it to your own organization. So the how is a little bit harder to define, in my opinion, than a mission and vision statement. And we took the next step and defined values and guiding principles. So your values are operating philosophies or principles that guide an organization's internal conduct as well as its relationship with customers, partners, and shareholders. And then guiding principles are the beliefs and values that guide an organization in all circumstances, regardless of changes in goals and strategies. So I'll say again, values and guiding principles should not change in good times or in bad. You know, when you meet a goal or don't meet a goal, that shouldn't change your values or your guiding principles. It may change some of the perks that you offer or some perhaps of the intensity that you operate in. But values and guiding principles should remain the same. So at Tosca, we created a set of business principles that guides our approach. We created the values and behaviors that are reflective of who we are and of who we strive to be. By caring for our team members and caring for our customers, operating with excellence and running a financially sound and safe business, we believe that we've created a platform for sustained growth that we can share with you today. So it started for us with creating the Tosca Roadmap. This is the platform that we leverage that not only spells out our values and our guiding principles, but more importantly, when we go into the detail, it spells out what each value and guiding principle looks like in the daily lives of our team members and how they interact. So first, let's start with our values. So our first value is passion. We are driven to constantly find and make things better, smarter, and easier. We love what we do, and we love the value that creates. And you'll see words in there that we think are representative of how that translates into an employee's life, like demonstrating enthusiasm. We see taking initiative, acting quickly upon opportunities. Again, helping the individual understand how they demonstrate a value and how they live that value every day when they do their job. Our second value is reliability. Our people and our products always come through efficiently and thoroughly. We complete tasks ahead of schedule to be more predictable for our partners and our customers. We set and accomplish not just objectives, but ambitious objectives, and then hold ourselves and hold others accountable, and we do that with integrity. Our next value is collaboration. We work together to understand the needs and create the right solutions for long-term success. We partner across functions, segments, and geography to create synergistic events. That includes things like actively seeking out ideas rather than believing that your own are the best, building trusting and effective relationships with your partners and your team members, creating opportunities for best practice sharing, and engaging in active listening. So not just listening, but actively listening and soliciting feedback. Our next value is appreciation. We're a compassionate company who values our employees and our customers. We care about their satisfaction and their success. That includes in day-to-day lives, rewarding and recognizing accomplishments. It includes developing the team. It includes building capabilities by developing our people. And remember, I've said, and I will say several times, culture is all about the people. And if you're not building capabilities and developing people, your culture will be stagnant. And then finally, we recognize and encourage not just professional development, but personal development so that we can continue to have a positive impact on the communities in which we live and work. Our next value is expertise. We know perishables top to bottom, end to end, across a range of segments. Living that out day to day means making sound decisions based on relevant facts, not opinions or beliefs. Actively sharing knowledge, seeking continuous improvement, and leveraging that knowledge and that mindset of continuous improvement to continue to deliver innovative solutions to our customers. And our final value is vision. We take a holistic view of the supply chain. We look at the big picture and we see how everyone is connected. That includes things like executing plans that are consistent with company strategies, making decisions that focus on increasing the value of the company by best understanding the customer's needs and managing our resources. And my personal favorite, being constructively discontent, constantly seeking opportunities to eliminate waste, eliminate redundancy, and eliminate inefficiency in the operations. So those are our values. Those are the things that guide our company, they guide the decisions that we make, and they guide the way that we act with our team members and our customers. So next we're going to move on to guiding principles. In a lot of organizations, values and guiding principles may be one and the same, and you will see a little bit of overlap and redundancy when we talk about the guiding principles versus our values. For Tosca, we felt it was important to take it maybe one step deeper. Our guiding principles are a little bit more detailed and a little bit more granular that help guide the individual more and help them understand the value that they bring to the organization overall. So our first guiding principle is that we care for and invest in our team members. Again, so similar to some of what you saw in the values, but we truly believe that every individual in the company impacts the success of Tosca. The work that each individual does truly does make a difference in our company. We want people to lead by example. One of my favorite sayings, folks hear me say it all the time, we win together or we lose together. In an organization with a successful culture where we are able to attract and retain top supply chain talent, it's important to understand that if transportation fails but operations wins, there's not a winner and a loser in that scenario. We all lose, and we need to always be looking for opportunities to work together to guide the company to success, not just an individual function. Probably the very most important thing that we do every single day is that we are a safety-focused organization. We build a culture and a community where we expect that every individual is empowered and expected to watch out for one another. They are expected to intervene when they see an unsafe condition to make sure that we provide a safe and an injury-free work environment, not just for our team members, but for people that visit our facilities as well. And also when we talk about safety, because we're a perishable food packaging company, food-safe, reusable packaging is critical to us as well. We manage industry-leading quality programs to make sure that our customers and our consumers have peace of mind and confidence in using Tosca reusable containers. We also embrace a customer-first mindset. When we deal with our customers, we approach every one of them as if they are a partner. To do that, we want to understand the problems that they have in their organization and best understand how Tosca can be a solution to those pain points or those problems. We want to be easy to do business with and build trusting relationships that allow both organizations to grow together. We want to identify supply chain solutions by being experts in the business that create value for our customer, and then really help to differentiate our products and our services and our solutions from our competition. For my friends in finance, we make sure that we run a financially sound business, that we understand and execute the business metrics that drive our success. We know the things that trigger good results, and we know the things that will trigger bad results. We want everyone on our team to be passionately committed to driving those positive results, which include for us growth year over year and in return on investment that we make in our company. But back to the values part, it's not only important that we attain results and we deliver the financial and business metrics that are important to our company, but also how we accomplish those results. So we make sure that we embed the values and the guiding principles in the results that we go accomplish. Next, we operate with excellence. We are continuously evaluating and optimizing our network to make sure that we are servicing our customer the very best way and enabling us to grow the business. We effectively manage our portfolio. We know where our assets are and what they're being used for. We encourage curiosity. We're always looking for people to ask questions about why we do things and what we get out of them. with a goal of getting better every day. And that's sort of the foundation of continuous improvement, is that we create that stable environment and then be curious and ask why and look for new and better ways. Our organization and our supply chain team takes an analytical approach to managing the business. We make sure that we use data and facts to drive decision making, not opinions and feelings. For us, we actively look for ways to engage and reduce waste. Because we're a sustainable, reusable packaging company, it's very important to us to be mindful of our impact on the people and the planet, and make sure that we act responsibly, honestly, respectfully, and safely in the work that we do every day. Our goal in the company and in our culture is to reduce inefficiency and rework. That's part of the value that we provide to our customers with our reusable packaging solution, and we expect that mindset to bleed over into the way that we work every day. Whether you're in sales or accounting or supply chain management, we should always be looking for ways to be more efficient and reduce rework. We also want to be good stewards of our assets. Reusable containers work extraordinarily well when they are reused. When they get lost or detained unnecessarily, that's not Tosca being a good steward of our assets. We want to make sure that we manage that closely. And then, in addition to looking for ways to reduce waste, we're also constantly looking for ways to give back to the communities where we live and work and the communities where we serve our customers. So not only do we look for those opportunities, but we embrace those opportunities. We're constantly looking for individual or team opportunities to volunteer particularly with organizations that share or are consistent with our values and operate in similar space to what Tosca does. So we work on things like food drives to help reduce hunger. We spend a lot of time with local food banks, making sure that we're getting food to those in need. We spend a lot of time serving at places like the Ronald McDonald House. We do charitable events, cancer awareness runs and walks and 5Ks and things like that. But we're always looking for ways where as an organization, as a team, or as an individual, that we can give back to our communities. So for Tosca, this has been a pretty successful journey. We're extraordinarily proud of the recognition we've received, and more importantly, extraordinarily proud of the people that have contributed to this journey. But we're not done. Scott mentioned at the beginning, we've had two, I think, really neat acknowledgments or recognitions this year. The first was that APICS Atlanta named Tosca as 2018 Company of the Year due to our strong industry leadership, our proven track record of supply chain innovation, and our extraordinary support and advocacy for the APICS Atlanta chapter. For us, it's been an absolute pleasure to collaborate with APICS and Tosca together. Very, very pleased with that. But we're not finished. Culture is an ongoing journey. I don't think we're ever done with creating and sustaining the culture that we want to work in. And when we talk about putting the words on paper and why words matter, because we do constantly refer back to our values and our guiding principles to make sure that we are staying on track and that we're making decisions and guiding the organization in a way that is consistent with those values and those guiding principles and consistent with the mission and the vision that we define. So before we go to some question and answers, and I hope there are some questions out there that we can answer for you, I do want to share maybe a few lessons that we have learned along the way, because it hasn't always been the very perfect journey. First I would say there are companies out there that have terrific cultures. Companies like Zappos and Google are awesome cultures. And I think you can learn lessons from them, just like I hope that you can learn some lessons from Tosca. But you shouldn't try to duplicate Tosca's culture or Zappos' culture or Google's culture unless you want to be just like them. And I don't think that that works necessarily, because you will always be chasing a culture that somebody else has already created, and you'll be late to the party. You need to create a culture that is your own. You need to create something that that comes from your heart and the heart of your people, because they don't work at Zappos and they don't work at Google. I also think that you can't create a culture that tries to be all things to all people. When we talk about creating a culture that attracts and retains top supply chain talent, it's important to note that you're creating a culture, not an environment where one particular individual kind of outweighs the needs and the wants of others. If you try to create a culture that is all things to all people, rather than satisfying everyone, I think you end up failing everyone, where nobody ends up with a culture that they want. So you need to learn from those that came before. You need to learn from great companies like Zappos and Google and Apple and Microsoft and folks like that, and hopefully learn from Tosca as well. But you need to create your own culture, and you need to then live out your own culture as leaders in your organization. The next thing that I'd like to learn or share that we have learned is that success breeds success. Your people are ambassadors for your organization, and when you have good people on your team, it will attract more good people to your team, because good, talented supply chain professionals want to work with good, talented supply chain professionals. They want to learn and grow individually, and that success does breed success. So make sure that part of your culture is engaging your team and allowing them to be a part of the selection process, whether it's simply walking candidates around the office to experience your culture and meet some of your team, or maybe it's actually doing peer interviewing, or bring in coworkers to help with the interview and the selection process to see what your team looks like and make sure that it's a culture and an environment that they want to come and they want to stay in. Again, I would say over and over and over again, your culture is all about your people. Your people make the difference. Make sure that you create opportunities to connect with your people. Make sure that you share what is going on in your company and get feedback. Ask for feedback. Actively listen when you talk about your culture and your journey. I think you might be surprised at what you hear sometimes and the feedback that you get candidly. And then finally, I would say, don't try to create a culture that is solely based on one thing. If you build a culture with people that look and think and act just like you do, you end up with a culture that is just like you, and you lose the opportunity to celebrate diversity, diversity of thought, and diversity of ideas. And that may work in some organizations, but I think in a successful supply chain organization, it is not going to be successful long term. So those are some lessons that we learned, and we talked a little bit about being selected by APICS Atlanta as a company of the year. One of the reasons that we think this has been a pretty successful journey for us, not just in the feedback that we hear from our team members and our employees, but also the other really cool acknowledgement that we received this year is we were named one of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution top workplaces in Atlanta. There were 2,572 companies nominated for that honor, and we were very thrilled to be one of them that received the Top Workplace Award. And for those that don't know, or those outside of Atlanta, that award includes questionnaires that go out to employees in your organization, and then they vote on, I don't know, maybe 50 or 100 criteria within your company, and then the AJC compiles those results, and those that have the best results get selected as a top workplace. So we're very, very pleased, very proud, and very thrilled with that acknowledgement, but more pleased and more proud that we've created a culture that allowed our team to submit responses that got us to that place, meaning that we're doing things well. Again, it's a journey. We learn a little bit every day, but very pleased with those two recognitions that we received. So with that, I think we want to move on to questions and answers. So Scott, I think, turn it back over to you for Q&A.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Great presentation. And Mike, I hope you've got your seatbelt on. We've got the questions pouring in. So you have energized our audience here. So our first question comes from our dear friend down in Savannah, Bill Stankiewicz, who is also an APICS Savannah board member, amongst other things, leads the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance chapter down in Savannah. And Bill asks, Mike, what type of food safety training are you doing for your employees?
Yeah, great question, Bill. So for us, I will say we are ISO 22000, gosh, I hope I don't get this wrong, ISO 22000-2005 certified. And that certification defines a lot of our training requirements. So we train everybody in good manufacturing practices. We train everybody in HACCP, which is Hazard Assessment and Critical Control Points of what could go wrong in our food safe environment. And then we train folks to the ISO standards to make sure that we're providing food safe containers to every customer every time.
Perfect. Great question, Bill. Thanks for joining us here today. Appreciate you sharing that perspective, Mike. Next question also comes from an APICS board member based up in the Greenville-Spartanburg area. Chuck Baker asks, every company has turnover. Specifically in the supply chain of your company, Mike, what is the rate for Tosca? So a tough question there, Mike, and if you can answer that however you can.
Yeah, well, so I can answer it a little bit subjectively. I don't have the numbers at my fingertips. I will tell you, we do struggle with turnover in our production environment. And Chuck, we have a plant not very far from you up in Charlotte. It's a brand new plant we just opened a couple of months ago. We do struggle in that environment. It's hard work. It's a lot of repetitive motion. It's hot and humid in our service centers where we wash and sanitize the reusable containers. And we compete with a lot of different industries, including folks like Amazon, and all the way to the other end of the spectrum with, McDonald's or, Walmart cashiers, things like that. So in that environment, we do struggle with turnover. In our administrative roles, in our office staff, and then specifically within our supply chain staff, which includes logistics, planning, optimization, customer service, and order management, vendor managed inventory teams, we actually have extraordinary turnover. We've been very blessed with our team. I can't say enough great things about the administrative team that we've compiled. And I believe, Chuck, I apologize being very anecdotal, but I believe our turnover in that environment is zero. We have grown like crazy. We've added folks to our team as we've continued to expand, and again, been very blessed with retaining all of our top supply chain talent. Great.
Thanks, Mike, for tackling that question. Chuck, great question. Appreciate you joining us. Next question.
I feel like I need to go back and find the data now, and I'll work on that.
Well, I imagine that might be a tougher question to answer in a public forum. So, but I appreciate you offering your perspective there. Turnover is something we all certainly battle. Next question comes from another friend of the APICS Atlanta chapter, Tyler Daniels, who sits on the board of the Transportation Club of Atlanta. Tyler is also part of the Flexport team, which has been growing remarkably across the country. Tyler asks, how has diversity played a part in Tosca's success?
Yeah, so diversity to me is really important, Tyler, and I think when I think of diversity, I think of a few different aspects of it. There's diversity of age, race, gender, religious and political affiliations, and things like that. And I think diversity is very important in all of those aspects. More importantly, though, I think is diversity of thought and diversity of ideas. And again, I think if you try to create an organization or an environment or a culture where everybody looks, thinks, and acts just like you do, you will have zero innovation. I learned from one of my bosses many years ago at the Coca-Cola company that if you don't innovate and the customer or the competitor innovates faster than you do, that you are automatically at a competitive disadvantage. And I have lived that for many, many, many years. And I don't think you get innovation and creativity and growth without diversity in your organization. So for me, very, very important. We have a wonderfully diverse group here. We have a great many perspectives. We try to maintain a healthy tension where needed between our sales team and our supply chain team and our optimization team and our planning team. The only area where I will not have tension is safety and food safety. Those are the two things that we absolutely will never compromise on. Everything else, I want to make sure that we are challenging status quo. We're looking for new and innovative ways to do things, and I like to say fail fast and fail small. So try different things. Again, with that diversity of ideas, you have to put some into play and see what works and what doesn't. So very, very important to me, Tyler. Thanks for that question.
Yep, great question, Tyler. Appreciate that. Hey, real quick sidebar to our audience. We've got 12:41 Eastern Time. We've got Mike slotted to 1 p.m. We've got a lot more questions to tackle. If you'd like to submit a question, please use the chat toolbar. I'll get those and pose those questions to Mike verbally. So appreciate all the great questions here. Mike, on the topic of diversity, quick side note, we featured Tandria Bellamy, who's a senior executive with UPS, on our podcast yesterday on Supply Chain Now Radio. And one data point that she shared, as we really spent a lot of time talking about the struggle that we have getting more women into the STEM and the engineering segment of industry, and not just the struggle getting them into that aspect, but keeping them. She mentioned that women make up 20% of engineering graduates, but nearly 40% of the women who earn engineering degrees either quit or never enter the profession. So clearly, huge challenge, but an even bigger opportunity, as we all know that we're trying to tackle the skills gap, and it's very difficult to attack the skills gap without tackling the gender gap. And check out to our audience, Tandria wrote a great blog article, Why I'm No Hidden Figure. You can Google that. It appeared on UPS Longitude's their blog. Okay, great question, Tyler, on diversity. There's so many different aspects of that. Mike, our next question comes, we're having a who's who here. Our next question comes from a 30-year APICS member and APICS Atlanta board member, David Gaskell. He asked, so he comes from a company with a cross-blended culture, small company with a much larger parent company. In addition, we mix professionals and labor from both the local and foreign markets. So how do we spin this, the culture side of what you were sharing, as an attraction for supply chain talent?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. And maybe it's semantics, but if you have to spin it, then I'm not sure that it's really truly your culture. And again, maybe that's just that might have been Scott's word choice actually. But if you have to spin culture to attract talent, you're probably not really truly living that culture. I do think it's important to highlight your culture or emphasize your culture and make sure that your candidates or the talent that you're trying to attract understands the environment that they're going to work in. For me, for my supply chain team, we make sure that includes, in many cases, some job shadowing. So before we make a final hiring decision, we may ask a candidate to come spend a few hours with a peer that they would be working alongside to really experience what the environment is like and really understand what the day-to-day job is going to look like, and become immersed, at least for a few hours or a half a day, become immersed in that culture and see what that's like. But also some of the spin around culture does include things like benefits that you may not see in a half a day job shadow session. So they're probably, it is important in that selection process or the onboarding process to talk about the unseen benefits, the things like the perks and the healthcare benefits or the things along those lines. So that part you may need to talk to. But other than that, I would really encourage, make sure that you're bringing top talent in, allow them to become immersed in the culture, if only for a little while, and do some job shadowing and understand what that environment is going to look like. But yeah, great question, David.
Yeah, great question. And Mike, it's not easy, right? It's not easy to establish the culture that you've described. Step one, which is a lot of hard work, and then also to David's point, presenting that culture and leveraging that culture and communicating that culture to folks that may be interested in joining the organization. It's kind of a step one, step two that's not easy by any means, right?
It is not, for sure.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dave. Great question there. Our next question, and again, this is Chuck from the upstate South Carolina chapter of APICS, the Industrial Crescent, as they call it. Chuck, love your question here. Does Tosca offer the APICS courses for free? And do you have any classes in the headquarters in Atlanta? And then he goes on to ask one more question, assuming you do have the classes after work or during work. Great questions, Chuck.
Yeah, boy, a series of great questions there. So we're not a huge organization, Chuck. We have experimented in offering APICS classes a few different ways. The very traditional way that we support is just through tuition reimbursement. We do, and I can't emphasize this enough, I believe very strongly that APICS certification and the APICS body of knowledge is critical to the success of a great supply chain organization. So the traditional path of, and I suspect this is like most companies, you would apply for tuition reimbursement and you would explain how the coursework and the certification would benefit the company. Then you would get approval, you would go take the class, pass the certification, and then submit that for reimbursement, and then the company would reimburse you for your costs. And I've seen some companies that reimburse 100% of the cost, some that reimburse some percentage, 50 or 75. And I think most companies would require you to, pass the certification before you would get certified or get reimbursed. And that's similar to how we operate. We have also experimented with a few other paths, and one was free and relatively straightforward on-the-job training when the CLTD certification was introduced about a little over a year ago now, I guess. So we actually bought the course material as a company. We created sort of 2 libraries for our supply chain planning teams to utilize. We bought the online training modules and the practice tests and things like that, and then made that available for our 2 different regionally based supply chain planning teams. And then we've tried a few other things as well where folks, because we have a library available, folks have borrowed the books and read up on content and material without actually going and taking the certification test, but they can still benefit from some of the material and the knowledge that's available. And then we do offer for our supply chain folks in particular, we reimburse APICS membership so that they can be a part of the community. They can get involved in their local chapter, in local events, and learn from other great supply chain organizations. Attend meetings and things like webinars like this, participate in plant tours, to see what other companies are doing and learn from others in the supply chain world.
Great question. Next comment comes again from Bill Stankiewicz, who Bill does not sleep down there in Savannah. He, in addition to his APICS and GMA roles, he's a task force member for the newly stood up technology corridor that's running, I think, from Augusta, Georgia, down through Savannah. And Bill says, "Hey, Mike, come speak at the Savannah Traffic Club." And would would love to take your message.
That's not a question.
That's right. Oh, Bill, love to have you be a part of the show. Next question comes from Ryan, and Ryan asks, what book or article would you recommend that will provide examples of how to build a culture?
Oh, golly, great question, Ryan. So I think you can go to Google and type in how to build a great culture, and you'll probably find thousands of books and articles. Go to Amazon, and you'd find the same thing. But I think building a culture starts with the individual and the people. So maybe a couple that I would recommend with a slightly different angle to it, Ryan, might be, it's called Situational Leader or Situational Leadership, I forget, by a gentleman named Dr. Paul Hersey. And situational leadership is about tailoring your leadership style to I don't want to teach a situational leadership class here, but it's adjusting your leadership style to the style of the individual that is being led or managed, so that you're communicating with them in a way that they receive well, and tailoring your particular style or your particular delivery based on the work group that you're working with. And I think situational leadership is a great way to lead. It's similar to servant leadership, which I'm also a big fan of. The goal as a leader is to provide people the tools and the knowledge that they need to go get their job done and then really get out of their way. But a couple other things that I think are really important in building your culture and in helping develop you as a leader that would then be able to shape your culture would be, and again, I apologize if I'm butchering the name of the actual book, but Strength Finders is a terrific one, again, to help you as an individual understand your strengths and your opportunities and understanding a little bit better about how you learn. And that one is a gentleman named Tom Roth, I think his name is. Great book. Really, I think spot on results if you take the Strength Finder test that comes along with the book. And I think you can learn a lot about yourself and how you might influence a culture. And then another one, and again, I think it's called Emotional Intelligence or something along those lines, by a guy named Bradbury. Similar to Strength Finder, Emotional Intelligence helps you understand how you as a leader function the best. And again, I think by understanding your leadership style and your emotional intelligence and the Strength Finder components, it'll help you understand how you can best go influence a culture. Maybe not a particular book that says, here's how to go build a great culture. But I would say, too, I'm a big fan of books and reading because I think it gives you different ideas and different perspectives. But you can't go read a book and then build a great culture either. Back to one of my early lessons learned, if you read a book and then try to implement everything in the book, you're just trying to copy something that somebody else has already done, and it will be artificial. You need to read the book and gather the great ideas, but then make it your own and operate in a way that you can live it and breathe it and act in it every day. So those are a few books that I think are really good for you as an individual, and then figure out the best way to take those strengths and that particular leadership style and apply it where appropriate to your organization to build a great culture.
Great. And Mike, you went 2 for 3. You're perfect until that final one. That Emotional Intelligence is by Travis Bradbury. But 3 great books there: Situational Leader, Strength Finders, and Emotional Intelligence. So great question, Ryan. And Mike, leaders are certainly readers, right?
That's right. And I'm guessing, Scott, that you had the benefit of Google while I was talking, and you're not sharing your screen like I am.
Guilty as charged. Okay, our final.
And I'm afraid if I turn around to look at my library, I wouldn't sound great over the speakerphone either, so I didn't see.
Hey, two out of three ain't bad at all, but great books there. Our final question, I told you we're having kind of a who's who here. Final question comes from Steve Rudnicki, who's a longtime APICS leader, board member with the Columbia, South Carolina APICS chapter, and current member of the APICS New Professional Development Committee. Steve asks, how do you reinforce the culture and deal with folks who do not fit or will not fit, since culture is not a policy?
Yeah, great question, Steve, and Steve, a great friend of APICS all around as well. That's a tough question to answer without it sounding a little bit negative. But the reality is, I think if you have folks that don't fit in your culture, it does manifest itself in performance. And it is important, in my opinion, to identify that early. And I think you're actually doing the company and the individual a favor if early on you recognize that maybe it's not a great cultural fit and talk about alternatives. In some cases, it may be that they're just in the wrong job. Maybe the job doesn't meet their skill set. Maybe it doesn't meet their work-life balance that they desire, things like that. And there's an opportunity to perhaps find a role that is better suited for them, that does allow them to become a little bit more engaged in the culture. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to find if you try to create a culture that attracts and retains great supply chain talent, that there will be ungreat supply chain talent as well that can't be a great fit in your organization. And not through culture, but through performance, you need to manage that and either correct it, reverse it, or help them find a better path. Worst case scenario with a different organization that would be a better fit for them. And again, hard to answer that question, Steve, without it being negative. And the hope always is that you can create a culture that does celebrate that diversity and is welcoming to everybody. But at the end of the day, if you're creating a culture where everybody is happy and feels like it's a perfect fit, that you're probably doing a disservice to those that are doing terrific work and giving their blood, sweat, and tears to the organization.
Great question. Mike, really appreciate you buckling in and taking these great questions. This is probably one of the more robust Q&A sessions we've had in the last few months on our webinar session. So great message today. Thank you for your time and perspective, Mike. We're going to be concluding our session this afternoon on a few final items. First, in our efforts to make life as easy as possible, Supply Chain Now Radio has recently rolled out a text to subscribe feature for our webinar programming. So if you're a regular attendee for our webinars, no need to continue to register on a one-off basis for our programs. So if you'd like to be auto-enrolled for each of our webinars, text your email to 42828 and we'll take it from there. Again, this might help make your life easier, especially if you have some certification maintenance goals as part of your extracurricular activities. Secondly, if we'll move to this final slide here, we invite our audience to join us for one of our upcoming webinars. We've got several intriguing sessions on the docket focused on topics such as negotiation best practices, warehouse industry workforce update, artificial intelligence and supply chain, much more. Learn more at apicsatlanta.org. Thirdly, join us in Atlanta on October 19th and 20th for our APICS Regional Supply Chain Leadership Forum, hosted by Georgia Tech. We're pleased to be featuring site tours, networking, and incredible professional development opportunities. In fact, Mike Wasson is one of the 4 great speakers we've got lined up for the second day of the event. Sponsorship opportunities are available. To learn more, send an email to info@apicsatlanta.org. Also, if you're interested in pursuing a supply chain management certification, be sure to check out our APICS Atlanta CSCP and CLTD boot camps at Georgia Tech scheduled for December 2018. Finally, feel free to reach out to me if there's anything we can do to serve as a resource for you and your organization. The easiest way to reach out to me is EVP for Executive Vice President at apicsatlanta.org, and we'll try to serve any requests that we get. Mike, before we conclude today's session, any final thoughts on your end?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Scott. So, my first thought is kind of your fourth bullet point in next steps. I would absolutely encourage folks, if you're not actively involved in APICS today or actively pursuing or have APICS certification, get involved. APICS is an amazing organization serving, give or take, 45,000 individuals across the world, and is by far and away the premier supply chain association out there. So please get involved. There are great tools and great resources available to you. Secondly, thank you to everybody on the call. I know it is very difficult to get away for an hour for those of us in the Eastern time zone. Hopefully you're grabbing lunch while you're listening to me talk. But thank you for giving me an hour of your time. I would challenge folks too to the little bit that we shared in the last 45 minutes or so. I'd challenge you to figure out ways to apply that in your team, your organization. You may not be able as an individual to shape or build or influence the culture of your company, but you can absolutely influence the culture of your team and your coworkers and your sphere of folks that you do business with every day. So hopefully you can take some of these lessons on not just how to create a culture, but how to live out a culture every day and apply it in your work group. And then finally, we are extraordinarily proud of Tosca and even more extraordinarily proud of the folks that make up our Tosca team. If you would like to learn more about Tosca and what we do in the perishable food supply chain, take a look at toscaltd.com to learn more, and you can contact us directly through that website as well, and we will be happy to share more with you. And if you want to get in touch with me as an individual to come speak at, say, a Savannah traffic club, Scott has all my contact information, and it's somewhere, I think, in this deck. Be happy to talk to you about those opportunities. I'm always happy to talk about APICS and always happy to talk about Tosca and share our journey. So thank you for that.
Thanks so much, Mike. And really, Tosca makes the APICS community better. And certainly all of your involvement and participation has made the APICS Atlanta chapter better. So appreciate all that you do. As we wrap up today, again, big thanks to our guest speaker, Mike Wasson of Tosca, for this, what I thought, a real helpful and practical presentation, all of his valuable insight. Big thanks to our sponsors again to help make this happen, APICS Atlanta and TalentStream. Of course, a big thank you to our audience. What great questions today. Great frank conversation on the tail end of the webinar. I appreciate your participation. On behalf of Supply Chain Now Radio, this is Scott Luton concluding today's episode. Have a wonderful week, and we hope to reconnect with you again real soon. Thanks, everybody.